He amazed me with a kindness I never saw coming. True infidelity story. What if the man who shattered your heart became the one who taught you the true meaning of love? Natalie Foster had always been certain about one thing in life. Cheating was unforgivable. No exceptions, no second chances, no redemption stories. She'd watched her mother take back her father after 3 separate affairs, each time believing his promises, each time getting her heart broken again. Natalie swore she'd never become that woman. She'd never be weak enough to forgive betrayal. Yet here she sat, 4 months after discovering her husband's affair, feeling her resolve crack in ways she never imagined possible. The discovery happened on a cold February evening. Natalie came home from her nursing shift at Denver Children's Hospital, exhausted from a 12-hour day caring for sick kids. She was looking for Marcus's car keys because her own car wouldn't start and she needed to move his vehicle out of the garage. She checked his jacket pockets hanging by the door. Her fingers brushed against paper. She pulled out a receipt without thinking much of it. Then her world stopped. The Riverside Hotel. Premium suite. 2 nights. The dates jumped out at her like accusations. February 3rd and 4th. The same weekend Marcus told her he was at a marketing conference in Phoenix. The same weekend she'd stayed home alone, binge-watching shows and missing her husband. The same weekend he'd texted her goodnight and said he loved her. Natalie's hands started shaking. The receipt fluttered between her fingers. She stared at it, willing it to be a mistake, an error, anything but what it obviously was. But there was no mistaking the hotel name, the dates, the charge for champagne and room service. Her stomach turned. She felt like she might throw up right there in the hallway. She didn't move for a long time. Just stood there holding that piece of paper while the refrigerator hummed in the kitchen and the neighbor's dog barked outside. Everything was exactly the same as it had been 5 minutes ago, except everything had fundamentally changed. Her marriage, her trust, her entire understanding of her life, all shattered by one receipt. When Marcus came home an hour later, Natalie was sitting at the dining table with the receipt placed carefully in front of her. She'd spent that hour in shock, barely breathing, trying to process what this meant. Marcus walked in calling out his usual cheerful greeting. Then he saw her face. Then he saw the receipt. The color drained from his face instantly. Natalie. His voice came out strangled. He dropped his messenger bag. It hit the floor with a dull thud. Who were you with? Natalie's voice sounded foreign to her own ears. Flat. Empty. Dead. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway. For a long moment, he said nothing. Natalie watched emotions flash across his face. Panic. Fear. Resignation. Then his shoulders sagged. Her name is Jessica. She works in my department. The confirmation felt like a physical blow. Some part of Natalie had still been hoping for an explanation, a misunderstanding, anything but this. How long? 8 months. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. 8 months. Over half a year. While Natalie had been caring for cancer patients and coming home to her husband, trusting him completely, he'd been living a double life. 8 months of lies stacked on top of lies. Every I love you had been tainted. Every kiss had been a betrayal. Every night they'd spent together, he'd been thinking about someone else. Get out. Natalie's voice was steady now, cold as ice. Pack a bag and get out of my house. Natalie, please. Let me explain. I ended it. 3 weeks ago, I ended things with her. I realized what I was doing, how wrong it was. I chose you. Please, can we just talk? You chose me? Natalie's laugh was bitter. You didn't choose me 8 months ago. You didn't choose me every single day you woke up and decided to keep lying. You don't get credit for ending an affair that should never have happened. Get out. Marcus moved toward her, hands outstretched. Please don't do this. We can work through this. I'll do anything. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling my brother. Natalie's brother Jake was a police officer who'd never particularly liked Marcus. The threat was enough. Marcus went upstairs. Natalie heard drawers opening, the sound of a zipper. 15 minutes later, he came down with 2 suitcases. He paused at the door, looking back at her with tears streaming down his face. I love you, Natalie. I know I have no right to say that, but I do. I'm so sorry. Your love nearly destroyed me. I don't want it anymore. The words came out harsh but true. Marcus flinched like she'd slapped him. Then he left. The door closed behind him. Natalie sat at that table for another hour, staring at nothing, feeling nothing. The numbness was a mercy. The real pain would come later. It came that night. Natalie lay in their bed alone, staring at the ceiling, and felt like she was drowning. Great waves of grief and betrayal crashed over her. She cried so hard she made herself sick. She'd given Marcus 12 years of her life. They'd been college sweethearts, married for 8 years, built a life together. She'd trusted him completely. How had she been so blind? What signs had she missed? The next morning, Natalie called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. She couldn't face anyone. Couldn't put on the cheerful, caring nurse persona when she felt shattered inside. She spent the day in her pajamas, moving from room to room like a ghost. Every corner of the house held memories that now felt like lies. The couch where they'd watched movies. The kitchen where they'd cooked together. The photos on the wall of happier times that she now questioned were ever real. Her best friend Sophia called that afternoon. Natalie hadn't planned to tell anyone yet, but the moment Sophia asked how she was, everything spilled out. The receipt, the confession, the 8 months of betrayal. Sophia listened in shocked silence. I'm coming over, Sophia said immediately. Right now. Don't argue. Sophia arrived 30 minutes later with Chinese takeout and wine. She took one look at Natalie's devastated face and pulled her into a tight hug. Natalie broke down again, sobbing into her friend's shoulder. Sophia held her and let her cry, not offering empty platitudes, just being present in the pain. They talked for hours. Sophia wanted to know everything. Natalie told her about finding the receipt, about Marcus's confession, about the 8 months of lies. Sophia's fury on Natalie's behalf was almost comforting. At least someone else understood how wrong this was. You know what you have to do, Sophia said firmly. Divorce him. He doesn't deserve another second of your time. Natalie knew Sophia was right. But knowing something and feeling ready to do it were different things. I just need time to process everything first. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Natalie, please don't be like your mom. Don't take him back. You deserve so much better than a man who could lie to your face for 8 months straight. Marcus tried calling constantly that first week. 20, 30 times a day. Natalie let every call go to voicemail. She couldn't talk to him. Couldn't hear his voice without feeling physically sick. After 3 days of this, she blocked his number. Then the emails started. Long messages full of apologies and explanations. Natalie deleted them after reading just the first few lines. She didn't want his excuses. Nothing he could say would change what he'd done. She went back to work after a week. Her coworkers noticed something was off, but Natalie brushed off their concerns with vague mentions of personal issues. She threw herself into caring for her patients, finding temporary relief in helping sick children and supporting their families. But the moment she left the hospital, the pain came rushing back. Her sister Rachel flew in from Boston 2 weeks after everything exploded. Rachel took one look at Natalie and immediately went into protective older sister mode. She stayed for 10 days, cooking meals, cleaning the house, and listening to Natalie process the same questions over and over. Why did he do it? What's wrong with me? How did I not see this coming? Nothing is wrong with you, Rachel insisted every time. Marcus is the one with the problem. He's the one who chose to cheat instead of dealing with whatever he was going through. That's entirely on him. But Natalie couldn't stop analyzing her own behavior. She'd been so focused on her career lately. The pediatric oncology unit where she worked was understaffed and overwhelming. She'd been taking extra shifts, coming home exhausted. Maybe she'd neglected Marcus. Maybe she'd pushed him away without realizing it. Maybe this was partially her fault. Stop that, Rachel said sharply when Natalie voiced these thoughts. Even if your marriage had problems, the solution is to talk about them or go to therapy, not jump into bed with someone else. Marcus made a choice. Own his choice, not yours. 3 weeks after Marcus left, something unexpected happened. Natalie came home after a particularly brutal shift at the hospital. One of her favorite patients, a 6-year-old girl named Emma battling leukemia, had taken a severe turn for the worse. Natalie was emotionally drained, barely holding herself together. She pulled into her driveway and noticed a package on her doorstep. Natalie stared at the note, her heart pounding. It wasn't signed, but she knew Marcus's handwriting. How did he know about Emma's bad day? Had he been calling the hospital? No, that was impossible. They wouldn't give out that information. Then she remembered. Marcus was still friends with her coworker Lisa on social media. Lisa must have posted something vague about a hard day in the unit. Natalie's first reaction was anger. How dare Marcus pretend to care about her hard days when he'd caused the hardest days of her entire life? She almost threw the tea in the trash. But that night, unable to sleep at 2 a.m, she made herself a cup. The familiar scent of lavender filled her kitchen. The warm, soothing taste brought unexpected comfort. She sat at the table drinking it, tears streaming down her face, hating that something from Marcus could still make her feel cared for. A week later, Natalie's car broke down in the hospital parking lot after her evening shift. It was 9 p.m, dark and cold. She was exhausted and frustrated, on the verge of tears as she called for a tow truck. When the driver arrived, he told her the service had already been paid for and he'd been instructed to take the car to a regular mechanic on the other side of town. Who paid for it? Natalie asked, though she already knew. Anonymous caller. But they knew your name, your car make and model, and which mechanic you use. Seemed to know you pretty well. The mechanic called her the next morning. The repairs would cost $800, but they'd already been paid in full by someone who'd called ahead. Her car would be ready by end of day. Sure enough, when Natalie got home from work that evening, her car was in the driveway, running perfectly. A note was tucked under the windshield wiper. I know I can't fix what I broke between us. But I can at least make sure you get home safely. You shouldn't have to worry about car problems on top of everything else. Natalie crumpled the note in her fist. She was furious. What did Marcus think he was doing? Did he honestly believe fixing her car would make up for 8 months of betrayal? But underneath the anger was something else. Confusion. Because the old Marcus wouldn't have done this. The old Marcus would have sent flowers and jewelry, grand gestures meant to impress. This was different. This was practical, thoughtful, asking nothing in return. The acts of kindness continued. When Natalie mentioned to a coworker that she was craving her grandmother's chocolate chip cookies, a batch appeared on her doorstep 2 days later. They were made from her grandmother's exact recipe, the one only Marcus had because he'd asked for it years ago at a family gathering. The cookies tasted exactly like her grandmother's kitchen, like childhood and safety and comfort. When a pipe burst in Natalie's basement, flooding the laundry room at 10 at night, she was frantically calling emergency plumbers when her doorbell rang. A plumber stood there with all his equipment. "I got a call about a burst pipe at this address. The service call and any repairs are already covered. Let's take a look." He fixed the pipe in 2 hours. When Natalie asked who'd called him, he just smiled. "Someone who cares about you, clearly." They sounded pretty worried on the phone. The next morning, Natalie found a note in her mailbox. "I still have alerts set up on the house monitoring system. When I saw the water sensor go off in the basement, I called the plumber immediately. I hope you're okay. I hope the damage wasn't too bad." Natalie stood in her driveway holding that note, emotions warring inside her. Part of her was grateful. The burst pipe could have caused thousands of dollars in damage if not addressed immediately. But another part was frustrated. She didn't want to feel grateful to Marcus. She didn't want to feel anything positive toward him at all. These kindnesses were making that impossible. More acts followed over the next few weeks. When her favorite coffee shop ran out of their seasonal pumpkin blend, a bag of it appeared at her workplace with a note about calling in a favor. When Natalie's hospital badge stopped working and she couldn't get into the building for her early morning shift, a staff member told her someone had called ahead to alert security that she was coming and needed a temporary badge. When Natalie's niece needed a last-minute birthday present and all the stores were closed, a perfectly wrapped gift appeared on her doorstep with a note saying he'd ordered it online using overnight shipping because he remembered the date. Each gesture was small. But together they created a pattern Natalie couldn't ignore. Marcus wasn't trying to win her back with grand romantic gestures. He was taking care of her in quiet, practical ways. Anticipating her needs. Solving her problems. Making her life easier during an impossibly hard time. All without asking for anything in return, without even expecting her to acknowledge them. After 6 weeks of these anonymous kindnesses, Natalie finally responded. She sent Marcus a text message. "I know it's you. You can stop now." His reply came within seconds. "I don't want to stop. Taking care of you isn't something I'm doing to win you back. It's just who I want to be for you, even if you never forgive me. Even if you divorce me and move on. You're going through hell because of what I did. The least I can do is make the practical parts of your life a little easier." Natalie stared at that message for a long time. She screenshotted it and sent it to Sophia. Sophia's response was immediate. "Don't fall for it. He's manipulating you. Classic abuser behavior." But was it manipulation? Natalie wasn't sure. Nothing Marcus had done felt manipulative. He wasn't asking for anything. Wasn't pressuring her to talk to him or take him back. He was just quietly helping her from a distance. She showed the messages to her therapist during her next session. Natalie had started seeing Dr. Ellen Morrison a month after the separation. The betrayal had left her unable to function normally, questioning everything about herself and her judgment. Dr. Morrison specialized in infidelity trauma and was helping Natalie process the complex emotions she was experiencing. "What do you think about his message?" Dr. Morrison asked after reading it. "I don't know what to think. Part of me thinks it's manipulation. Part of me thinks it's genuine. How do I tell the difference? Look at his actions over time. Manipulation typically has an agenda. The person doing it wants something and is using kindness as a tool to get it. But if someone is consistently helpful without demanding anything in return, without making you feel guilty or obligated, that suggests genuine care rather than manipulation." "So you think he's being genuine?" "I think that's something only you can determine. But I'll note that in my 20 years doing this work, I rarely see cheating partners put in this kind of sustained, practical effort without asking for reconciliation or forgiveness. Most either disappear or show up begging." This pattern of quiet caretaking is unusual. Natalie left that session with more questions than answers. What was Marcus's endgame here? What did he want? And more importantly, what did she want? She missed him. That was the truth she barely admitted to herself. She missed his laugh, his terrible dad jokes, the way he made breakfast on Sunday mornings. She missed the life they'd built together over 12 years. But she didn't know if missing someone was enough reason to forgive betrayal this massive. 2 months after the separation, something happened that changed everything. Natalie's childhood dog Bailey, who lived with her parents in Colorado Springs, became suddenly and critically ill. Her mother called in tears. Bailey was 16 years old and the vet said he probably wouldn't make it through the night. Her parents were both recovering from a severe flu and couldn't make the 3-hour drive to Denver to bring Natalie to see Bailey one last time. Natalie sat on her kitchen floor and sobbed. Bailey had been her constant companion growing up. Her comfort during her parents' divorce. Her loyal friend through every heartbreak and triumph. She needed to get to Colorado Springs, but she'd just finished a 14-hour double shift and was too exhausted to drive safely. She was about to call an expensive rideshare service when her doorbell rang. She opened it to find Marcus standing there, car keys in hand, his face full of concern. "Your mom called me. I know you probably don't want to see me, but you shouldn't drive right now. You're exhausted and emotional. Let me take you to Bailey. Please." Natalie was too drained to argue. Too heartbroken about Bailey to care about her pride. She grabbed her purse and got in Marcus's car without a word. They drove in silence for the first hour. Marcus kept his eyes on the road, not trying to force conversation. Natalie stared out the window, watching the dark landscape blur past, thinking about Bailey and mortality and all the ways life never turns out the way you expect. "Thank you for doing this," she said finally, her voice hoarse. "Of course. I know how much Bailey means to you. I wouldn't be anywhere else." More silence. Then Natalie asked the question that had been haunting her for 2 months. "Why, Marcus? I need to understand why you did it." Would the truth Marcus was about to reveal help Natalie heal, or would it destroy what little remained of her trust forever?